My name is Aditya Ramakrishnan. I study with Bhavani Shankar Road Junior College of Science with PACE. I'm going to be joining Stanford University in September. I also got into schools like MIT, Dartmouth, Cornell, Columbia, Brown, Carnegie Mellon, UC Berkeley, Northwestern, and others. But I ended up choosing Stanford because I felt it's more diverse, more entrepreneurial, has a better campus, better weather, and it's in Silicon Valley. Since I'm interested in studying computer science, I felt like that's a really big advantage for me because I have companies like Google and Oracle right next door. Um, my SAT score was 2300, and my SAT subject test scores were 800 in physics, 800 in maths 2, and 780 in chem. So that's pretty much it.
Hi, my name is Siddharth Chaudhary. I was in the Ratanbhai Vallabhbhai Junior College of Science in Mulund with IIT Place, and I'm going to be attending Purdue University this fall. I applied to and got into other universities like MIT through the waitlist. I got into UCLA, UC San Diego, and such other universities in the US. My SAT 1, the SAT reasoning scores were 20 to 10, and the SAT 2 scores were 800 in math and chem and 790 in physics.
Hi, I'm Tanvi Chhara, and I was from PACE College, Ratanbhai Vallabhbhai in Mulund. And my SAT reasoning test score was 2190, and SAT subject test I gave physics, chemistry, and math level 2, and I got 800 in all, on 800. And I got admission in Cambridge University in UK and Cornell University in US. And in Cornell I got Sir Ratan Tata Scholarship, which covers almost the entire cost of studying there.
So what we're going to try and talk to you about are basically the basics of what you need to know when you're applying to colleges in the US and the UK. Siddharth and I think we only applied to the US, Tanvi applied to the UK as well. So she can cover more about the UK side of it while we focus more on the US aspect. One of the main advantages of studying in the US as opposed to a country like India is that it offers you a lot more freedom in terms of the courses that you can take. You don't have to you don't get a rank which determines what major you have to take, but you can choose what major you really want to study after your first or second year over there. So you really have that kind of freedom and flexibility. You can choose to double major or take a major and a minor, or even a double minor if you want to. You can major in something like computer science but take a minor in something like music, which is completely unrelated. And I feel like that diversity and the freedom to explore are one of the main features of the US education that really attracted me to it. Apart from that, the fact that you learn a lot of responsibility and independence by studying in that kind of system, and you get to meet a lot of new interesting people, make new friends, build contacts and relationships. It's a big plus side. At the same time, you have great opportunities for internships and work experience if you get into one of the good schools in the US. So I feel that those are really big advantages of studying in a place like the US.
So these are the basic criteria that are necessary for applying to the US. This is what the universities look at. So I'm going to be addressing the academics. So the scores that you have in 9th, 10th, 11th, and the 12th midterm are what matter. It's basically the scores from the high school scores up to Jan. Jan is the period up to which the admissions are on, and then they close. The academics are really important. I mean, like, they are the #1 criteria. You have to have really good 9th, 10th, 11th school scores, and 12th midterm is actually, not all universities ask for it, but it's highly recommended if you submit it. Yeah, and if you have a considerably low score in 11th grade, that's still fine, as long as you have other good strong points in your application.
Okay, so I'll talk about the second most important thing, the standardized tests, which are the SATs. And you have another option these days, which is ACTs. Most Indians have the option of SATs. So SATs has 2 parts. SAT 1, which is a reasoning test. It has 3 parts again: critical reading or CR, writing, and math. So most Indians, since we are really good at math, we find it pretty easy and get a very decent score. It's out of 800 each section. In writing, you have one essay, 20 minutes, and the essay is graded by two people, two readers, so there's no bias when you are, inclined towards one side of an argument. So two people read it and give you a score on 6, say 5 on 6 and a 6 on 6. They total the scores and give you, the total out of 12. And this is graded to 240, which is 30% of the writing score. So you multiply this score by 20 and get your essay marks. Critical reading involves a lot of vocabulary. So you know, a lot of reading, novels, etc. help in critical reading. Plus you gotta refer certain books for it. College Board is the organization which conducts SAT exams, and there's a standard College Board book available for SATs, which is highly recommended. The other books are Balance, Princeton Review. So most of these books have a list of the highly probable words that might come in critical reading. So you typically need to say, even by heart, around 800 words from Balance. Overall, your reading up till now, your school reading, your reading of newspapers, novels, etc. helps score pretty well in these two. So SAT exams get conducted 5 times a year in India, 6 times in US. So, okay, 5 times a year in India. You can actually start preparing for SATs in around 11th standard. Just PACE conducts classes for SAT exams. So you can join those, or you can refer these books. Prepare well and give one SAT. You can reappear for SAT exams as many times as you want. And many colleges actually consider a super score. So if you give SATs twice and you get, say, 800 in math once and 780 in math the second time, they consider the 800 marks, but they actually do come to know that you got 780 in the other test. So you can give SATs as many times as you want, but it is recommended to prepare well for it and give it as less number of times as you want. So also SATs cost around 6,000 rupees per test, so you should consider that. Okay, so you start preparing for SATs around 11th standard. You can give it in the, say, end of 11th, around January of 11th standard, and reappear in 12th beginning if you want. The score of SAT is valid for 2 years. Okay, now coming to SAT 2 or SAT subject tests. SAT 2 is the subject test. It gives you a variety of options which include physics, chemistry, math, languages like Spanish, Chinese, and a lot of other stuff. So SAT subject test, we typically Indians applying for science and engineering courses can give physics, chemistry, and math. Math has 2 levels, level 1 and level 2. So anyone preparing for IIT-JEE would find all these very easy and would typically achieve 800 on 800 in all of these. Most good colleges do require you to give SAT at least 2 of these 3 subjects, while some universities do exempt you from it. So it is very advisable to give SAT even if those universities don't ask for the score and submit the score. So there's no special preparation required for this. Even your 11th HSC syllabus should actually suffice for giving these exams. And SAT subject tests are usually taken in, say, October of 12th standard because they cover topics even of 12th grade. SATs have 66% weightage on English, SAT 1, while ACTs have English, math, and science. So for us Indians, we are not so well versed with English because critical reading, most of us have a problem. ACTs are a new and better option because the weightage on English reduces. Math and science are pretty manageable for us. So do find out about ACTs and consider them as your option.
There's also another standardized test called the TOEFL, which is the test of English as a foreign language, but that isn't really required for the schools in the US that you will be applying to, as long as you have been in an English medium school throughout high school or for a long time. So I wouldn't really suggest taking those tests, but they're very simple if you want to, and you can just read up a little more about them and take them should you choose to do that. So I would say the ideal time to take the SATs are in around October, November, December of 11th grade. So you can take them and retake them if you need to, and to get them out of the way as early as possible. For the SAT subject test, I'd say the best time to take it is maybe in June or October of your 12th grade. So you've covered most of the portion. If you need to refer to books, in case you've not covered the full portion, books like Barron's and Princeton Review that were listed for SAT-1 are also available for SAT-2, and I think they're good guidelines to help you know the theory of what they will ask in the paper. Now, apart from academics and standardized tests, a third really important aspect of your application are extracurricular activities. What needs to be stressed on is that all 5 of these criteria are really important. Academics and standardized tests are simply the gatekeepers. Everyone who's applying to a top school like a Stanford or an MIT will have excellent academics and excellent standardized test scores. So what you really need to differentiate yourself from them are your extracurriculars, letters of recommendations, and your essays. No one has gotten into schools like Stanford, MIT, Harvard, Princeton, etc. solely on the basis of their academics or standardized test scores, and no one ever will. The only way that you can really get into those schools is by making sure your academics and standardized tests are as good as they can be, and also working on your extracurricular activities and letters of recommendations and essays, because that is really what will make your application unique. So what I'll talk to you right now are the extracurricular activities that you can try looking at and focusing on to enhance your application. What these schools really look for is passion. So you need to show that you are passionate about a subject that you love. If you're really interested in physics, for example, then you should try and find an opportunity to work more with physics in a non-academic, school-related space. So if you like physics, you should try taking a project in physics under a professor at a place like IIT or one of the other universities in Mumbai, or wherever you live, because that shows that you're going out of your way and showing initiative to really exercise your passion in a subject that you love, and that is something that they really look for in an applicant. I myself did a research project on the applications of solar technology in India, and that was under the former Dean of Student Affairs at IIT Bombay. I also did another project on skill gaps in India, and that was under the Sheriff of Mumbai and the Principal of HR College. So I feel like that kind of interest that you display in your application really helps the university understand more about you and know that you're a serious applicant and that you are really passionate about something. Apart from that, you have things like community service and social service, which are really important, and you should focus and dedicate time to if you're interested in that. But there are so many different extracurriculars that different people can do, and ultimately it just depends on what you want and what you're interested in. Again, academics and standardized tests, the better they are, the more competitive you will be at these schools. But it's your extracurriculars that will really help make a big difference in terms of your application.
Yes. So extracurriculars in my case were mostly Olympiads. I represented India at the International Earth Science Olympiad at Taiwan and got a bronze medal there. I investigated the magnitude of Chi earthquake at Taiwan with people from Nepal, Italy, US. I also gave presentations at the Ministry of Earth Sciences. So these are the extracurriculars that really counted for me, since I did not have social work or I wasn't a part of any NGO. Stuff like membership of, say, astronomy clubs, of water sport clubs, even those count.
So, well, in my case, I did an internship in IIT Bombay with Think Labs. Think Labs, I did an internship in robotics. They are a robotics-based organization, and I had to program robots that had industrial applications. I also did another thing with them, wherein they were trying to design experiments for middle school kids and high school students, so that they get them to love science. So just simple experiments that fascinate them. So I also helped them, and I was in the team that did that. Yeah, also another thing I would like to say about extracurriculars is anything you've done, just anything that makes you unique is what matters. It could be anything. Nothing is.
Dance, sports.
Yeah, you know, dance, sports, just anything. Okay, so now I'm going to start with LOR. So as Aditya said, these three differentiate you. The LORs is the letter of recommendation. The universities in the US, some ask just for one compulsory, some ask for two mandatory recommendations. However, you can submit up to 5. These recommendations have to be from someone who knows you really well and is someone prominent in your life. It could be anyone in the academic front. However, in the US, they ask you for 2 recommendations, one from a science teacher, science or maths teacher, and one from a humanities teacher. So that's that. And yeah, and there's also a counselor's recommendation. In my case, it was from the principal of my college. So you need 3 recommendations basically: one math or science, one humanities, and one from your counselor. In our case, it could be the principal of our school.
Yeah.
You could also have additional recommendations. They could be from anyone, even non-academic, like say, let's say I have done an internship, and a recommendation from the guy who's supervising me would also matter. Any such cases would matter. So those recommendations are.
Now, essays are one of the most important parts of your application because it really shows who you are, and it's your voice of the application. Everything else beyond a point is purely data and statistics and numbers. But your essays are words that you've crafted for the sake of your application so that your admissions officer can read it and know you personally. What most schools look for is that they want to know you personally. They want your essays to talk to them so that they can get to know you as a person before they admit you, and so that really helps them decide that you are right for the school. Now, there's no formula for writing an essay as such. It varies from person to person, and everyone's application is different. No one can. I mean, what worked for me may not work for someone else, and what worked for someone else may not work for me. What you should try and convey in your essays are basically your interests and your passions. You can touch on the extracurricular activities that you have done, because that will really help you explain it more in detail and its impact on you. You can don't be afraid to talk about whatever little things you've accomplished as well, because the little things matter too. It's just that you shouldn't be afraid of mentioning something just because you don't know if it's significant enough. You should really use your essays to talk about everything you can, as long as it's relevant, and you should be very evaluative and critical in your thinking, because it's not just a story, but you also have to evaluate its impact on you and how you have transformed or grown as a person because of that experience. Essays are typically, you'll have to write a lot of them. There's the common application, which has about 6 different questions. You can answer any one in about 500 words. And those questions roughly remain the same from year to year. They ask you something like, describe a significant personal event, achievement, risk you have taken, or ethical dilemma you have faced and its impact on you. They ask you, evaluate an issue of local, national, or international concern and its impact on you, things like that. And the 6th topic is always write on anything of your choice. So if you have a topic, or if you want to write about something that doesn't clearly fit into one of the other 5, you can always write it out as a topic of your own choice. But you should always try and make it fit into one of those 5, because, I mean, those are pretty broad topics and they always like it when you're more precise with your thinking. You should also, when you're approaching essays, not focus too much on the topics and try to write your essay accordingly, but think about what you want to write on and write your essay, and then figure out which topic it fits into, or modify it further based on that. But don't change what you always wanted to convey just because of the topics.
So essay writing wouldn't be say, very spontaneous phenomenon. Throughout your 11th and 12th standard, you should write down stuff which you thought was significant. Somehow you helped someone in a situation, so just keep noting down things. And when you actually sit down to write an essay, which would be around say October and November of your 12th standard, you could refer all those notes and then find out what is actually significant for you. So it's a very, very gradual process, and essays should also convey how studying in the university after graduating, how you'd make a difference to the world, how you'll help the humanity, anyhow. Okay, essays are, you also need some university specific essays. So most universities ask you questions like, why do you want to get into Stanford? Which branch do you want to take here? So you should actually look at the university's website and bring out points which tell them how keen you are on joining that course in that university. So you should look at the course, the professors, the on-field experience, and write about it. Write why you like it and how it will benefit you. So yes, that should convince the university.
Yeah, so as she said, apart from the common application essay, there are supplementary essays you have to write for every school you apply to. Those are supposed to be more specific, while the common application essays are supposed to be more general, so you can send it to all the schools that you apply to. In the supplementary essays, really what you should try and do is, again, like she said, convey to the schools why you're so interested in joining that particular school, or how you plan on leveraging the education that school can offer you, and what you can really contribute to that school and what that school can contribute to you. That's a really important part of your essays. Again, not everyone who applies not everyone who applies has done fantastic research or like cured cancer or got a Nobel Prize or anything like that. So there are people who've done less significant things in terms of awards, but their essays really helped them cover up for that, because they showed who they really are. They showed their qualities and what makes them tick. And so that's a really important part of your application. The best time to start writing essays is in about August of the year you're applying. So if you're applying in December, you should start writing your essays in August, but not before that, because a lot can change in the time before that. You may have done things that you had not done earlier, and if you start writing an essay but later you do some fantastic things and you realize that you want to write about that, it's a waste of time if you really write long essays when you have nothing to write about. As time goes on and you get closer to when you're supposed to submit the forms, from August to December, when you focus on your essays, you'll be able to write about more. You'll have more perspectives on what you want to write about, and you'll be more accurate in what you want to convey to the university. So the best, and that is August is also when most of the forms come online for your year. So that's when you will have access to most of the questions. So that is really the best time to start working on essays. What I'll talk to you right now is early action, early decision, and regular decision. There are a few different cycles that you can apply for schools. Most schools have early action or early decision programs, which means that you apply before the December deadline. You apply by about October 1st, but you have to check that up for each school because it varies. But generally for most schools, if you apply by October 1st for that early action or early decision program, you get your decision in mid-December instead of waiting till April. So you get your decision early and then you can decide what you want to do. Now, the difference between early action and early decision is that early action is not binding. And what that means is that if you apply early action to a school, like say Stanford or Yale, they have early action programs. If you apply early action and you get in, then you don't have to attend that school. But you have the option of attending that school if you want to. However, for a school like University of Pennsylvania or Columbia, they have early decision. So if you apply to those schools early, if you get in mid-December, then you have to withdraw all your other applications and you have to attend that school. You have no other choice unless the school you are attending instead is in a different country.